My fiancé said, "Once we're married, I'm quitting my job. You'll handle everything, right?" I said, "Of course." Then I quietly downgraded the wedding, ended the lease, and left the country. She found out from a Facebook post. I never thought I'd be the guy with the dramatic exit story, but life throws curveballs sometimes. Let me set the scene. I'm Nate, 32, software developer specializing in security systems. 4 years ago, I landed a remote position with a tech company based in Singapore. The pay was excellent, the work challenging, and the best part was I could live anywhere as long as I was available during their business hours, which meant early mornings for me in Boston. That's where I met Sophia, a pharmaceutical sales rep with a dazzling smile and the kind of confidence that filled any room she entered. We connected on a dating app, and from our first meeting at a harborside cafe, I was smitten. She was beautiful, ambitious, and seemed to appreciate my steady, somewhat nerdy personality. The relationship progressed quickly. 6 months in, we were practically living together at my downtown apartment. By year 2, it was official. We moved into a luxury high-rise with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the harbor. The rent was steep, but between my tech salary and her pharmaceutical commission, we managed comfortably. I even started setting aside money for a down payment on a house in the suburbs. Then came the proposal. I'd planned it for months. A weekend trip to Napa Valley, a hot air balloon ride at sunrise, the perfect ring. When she said yes, surrounded by vineyards bathed in golden morning light, I thought I'd never been happier. Wedding planning began immediately. Sophia had definite ideas about what our wedding should look like. A historic estate venue, at least 200 guests, top-shelf everything. The budget quickly ballooned to $85,000, which made me nervous, but I reminded myself this was a once-in-a-lifetime event. I agreed to cover 70% of the costs since I earned more, withdrawing from my house fund to place deposits. By Sophia's preference, I handled most of the vendor communications and contracts since my schedule was more flexible with remote work. This meant my name was primary on most of the paperwork, with payments coming from my accounts, though Sophia would reimburse me for her portion later. We kept our finances mostly separate throughout our relationship. No joint accounts, just a shared expense tracking app where we'd log who paid for what. This system had worked well for us, requiring minimal financial entanglement while maintaining transparency. 8 months into our engagement, with the wedding about 4 months away, things shifted. We were having dinner at our apartment when Sophia casually dropped what felt like a bomb. "I can't wait until the wedding is over and we can just enjoy being married," she said, twirling pasta around her fork. "Me too," I agreed. "The planning is intense, and I can finally quit that job." I paused, my glass halfway to my lips. "Your job? I thought you were going for that regional manager position?" She laughed lightly. "That was just to boost my final commission checks. Once we're married, I'm quitting. I'm thinking of maybe taking a few months to travel, then maybe trying something part-time like real estate." "That's a big change," I said carefully. "We've based our lifestyle on 2 incomes." "But you make more than enough for both of us," she said, reaching for my hand. "That Singapore company pays you silly money to work in your pajamas. Plus, once we have kids, I'd want to stay home anyway. You'll handle everything, right?" The way she said it, not as a question requiring discussion, but as a fact already decided, sent a chill through me. I managed to smile and said, "Of course, we'll figure it out." That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept running the numbers in my head. Without her income, our luxury apartment would eat nearly half my monthly take-home pay. The wedding costs, the lifestyle she'd grown accustomed to, future children. It wasn't just the money that bothered me, but the unilateral decision-making. The assumption that I'd handle everything without a real conversation. The next morning, I casually brought up finances over breakfast, suggesting we might need to revisit our budget if she was planning to quit. "Don't worry so much," she said, kissing my cheek. "We'll cut back on a few things if we need to. But honestly, you could ask for a raise too. You're always saying how they value your work." Before I could respond, her phone rang. Her mother, calling about wedding details, and the conversation was effectively over. Over the following week, I tried several times to reopen the discussion, but Sophia always deflected. Meanwhile, wedding planning continued at full speed. She'd added a champagne fountain to the reception, upgraded the floral arrangements, and was now considering a designer dress that cost as much as a decent used car. The breaking point came when I discovered she'd given her notice at work, 3 months before the wedding, without telling me. I found out when her colleague mentioned it at a dinner party, congratulating her on early retirement. Sophia laughed it off, saying she wanted to focus on the wedding full-time. That night, after our guests left, I confronted her. "You quit your job without even discussing it with me?" "I was going to tell you," she said, removing her earrings. "But you've been so stressed about money lately, I figured I'd wait until you were in a better headspace." "Sophia, this affects both of us. Our entire financial plan." "Nate," she interrupted, "you're making this a bigger deal than it is. My parents will help with the wedding, and you have that huge emergency fund. Once we're married, we'll be a team. My job was killing me anyway. The travel, the stress. Don't you want me to be happy?" The way she positioned it made me sound like the unreasonable one, like I was prioritizing money over her happiness. But this wasn't about the money. Not entirely. It was about partnership, communication, respect. "I do want you to be happy," I said finally. "We'll figure it out." She smiled, apparently satisfied, and the subject was closed. But something had fundamentally changed for me. I spent the next few days in a fog, going through the motions while internally taking stock of our relationship. Had there been warning signs I'd missed? I thought back to how quickly she'd moved in, how easily she'd adapted to the lifestyle my income provided, how she'd gradually taken over more of the decision-making while contributing less financially. The wedding had become more about impressing her friends than celebrating our union. Even our future home, she'd started sending me listings for properties well above the budget we'd originally discussed. Then there was her family. Her parents, while always polite to my face, had made subtle comments about how I could provide for their daughter. Her sister had once jokingly referred to me as Sophia's golden ticket. At the time, I'd laughed it off. Now, those comments took on new meaning. 3 days after discovering she'd quit her job, I made a decision. It wasn't impulsive. It was perhaps the most clear-headed choice I'd ever made. If I was going to be treated like an ATM rather than a partner, I needed to close the account. The truth was, Singapore had been trying to get me to relocate for nearly a year. My manager had mentioned it several times, citing the benefits of having senior team members on site, but I'd always declined because of my relationship with Sophia. Now, that consideration was off the table. During our next team call, I casually mentioned I was reconsidering the relocation offer, and my manager was immediately enthusiastic. I began by contacting wedding vendors to modify our arrangements. Since my name was primary on most contracts, and I had established relationships with the vendors through months of being the main point of contact, I was able to make changes without raising immediate red flags. Most deposits were non-refundable, but I managed to recoup about 30% of what we'd spent by canceling premium elements. The venue coordinator, who I'd built a good rapport with, allowed me to downsize from the grand ballroom to a smaller space, accepting my explanation about family health issues necessitating a more intimate gathering. I reduced the guest count from 200 to 50, canceled the champagne fountain, and switched from the premium catering package to the standard one. Next, I spoke with our landlord. Our lease was actually up in 2 months, requiring a 60-day notice for renewal or termination. I gave formal notice that we wouldn't be renewing, which didn't incur any penalty since it was within the required timeframe. However, I did offer 2 weeks additional rent to secure the landlord's discretion about not mentioning the non-renewal to Sophia if she happened to call the office. I framed it as wanting to surprise her with a different housing option, and the landlord, who'd always found Sophia somewhat demanding, seemed understanding. All of this happened while Sophia was busy with pre-wedding events, bridesmaid brunches, dress fittings, spa days. She was so absorbed in these activities that she barely noticed my preparations. When she asked about wedding details, I assured her everything was handled. The most important step involved my job. I'd been with the Singapore company for 4 years, building a solid reputation. When I formally accepted their standing relocation offer, things moved quickly, but not unreasonably so. The company had been trying to get me to relocate for nearly a year and had all the processes in place. They assigned me a relocation specialist who expedited the work visa application process, leveraging the company's status as a tech sector leader in Singapore to fast-track approvals. Since I was a senior team member moving for a specific role they'd been trying to fill locally for months, they pulled out all the stops. Even with their help, the visa process would normally take 3 to 4 weeks, which aligned perfectly with my timeline. They offered a generous relocation package and a 15% pay increase to offset Singapore's higher cost of living. I was also able to begin working remotely from temporary accommodations while waiting for my permanent housing to be arranged. With all pieces in place, I executed the final phase of my plan 2 weeks before the wedding. The work visa had been approved faster than expected thanks to my company's government connections, and I had already shipped several boxes of belongings to a corporate apartment they'd arranged for my first month in Singapore. I left the apartment early, telling Sophia I had back-to-back meetings. Instead, I went to the airport with 2 suitcases containing everything I couldn't bear to leave behind. I'd already shipped more boxes to a temporary address in Singapore. From the airport lounge, I sent emails to our close friends and family members from my side, explaining that the wedding was being postponed indefinitely due to irreconcilable differences. I apologized for the inconvenience and offered to reimburse anyone who'd booked non-refundable travel. The responses came quickly. My parents called immediately, concerned and confused. My best friend texted asking if I needed him to pick me up from anywhere. My sister demanded to know what happened and if I was having a breakdown. I reassured them all that I was mentally sound, just making a necessary life change, and promised more detailed explanations once I was settled. Most seemed shocked, but respected my decision. Having seen subtle signs of trouble in our relationship that I'd only recently acknowledged myself. Then I called Sophia's parents. This was the hardest part. Not because I cared much about their opinion of me, but because I wanted to be clear about why I was leaving. The wedding is off, I told her father. I've discovered that Sophia and I have very different expectations about marriage. What are you talking about? He demanded. Everything's arranged. Sophia quit her job without discussing it with me. She expects me to support her entirely while she decides if she wants to work part-time. That's not the partnership I signed up for. There was a long pause before he responded. She's a beautiful girl who deserves to be taken care of. If you can't handle that responsibility, maybe you're right to back out now. His response confirmed everything. To them, I was just a provider, not a partner. The venue has been downsized, not canceled, I explained. There's enough food for 50 people if you decide to hold some kind of event anyway. I've paid for everything non-refundable. Consider it a parting gift. I ended the call and boarded my flight. 14 hours later, I landed in Singapore, turned on my phone, and was greeted by the digital equivalent of a nuclear explosion. Dozens of missed calls, hundreds of text messages, and a flood of social media notifications. I ignored most of it, but did read Sophia's messages, which evolved from confusion to anger to desperate pleading. Where are you? We have the rehearsal dinner tonight? Is this a joke? My mother just called saying you postponed the wedding? Answer your phone. Please don't do this to me. We can work this out. My friends are all texting me. How could you humiliate me like this? Whatever I did, I'm sorry. Please come back. The last message gave me pause. Whatever I did suggested she genuinely didn't understand why I'd left, which spoke volumes about how differently we viewed our relationship. I responded with a single text. You decided unilaterally to quit your job and expect me to support you without any discussion. That's not a partnership. I wish you well, but this isn't the marriage I want. Then I turned off notifications and opened Facebook, where I posted a simple update with a photo of the Singapore skyline at sunrise. New chapter begins today. Singapore, I'm ready for our adventure. Within minutes, comments poured in, confused friends asking what was happening, others who'd received my email expressing support or disappointment. Sophia herself commented, "How could you do this to us? Call me right now." I didn't delete her comment, but didn't respond either. Instead, I posted a longer update explaining that I'd moved for work and that my relationship had ended due to incompatible views on partnership and financial responsibility. I kept it factual, avoiding accusations or bitterness. That post, apparently, is how she fully realized I was serious. According to mutual friends, she showed up at our now half-empty apartment. I'd taken only my things, saw the non-renewal notice from the landlord on the counter, and had a complete meltdown. Her family tried to spin the story as me having cold feet or a mental breakdown. Some believed them. Others, particularly friends who'd seen the dynamic between us, understood there was more to it. A few even privately messaged me their support. The strangest part was how quickly some aspects of my life returned to normal. Work provided immediate structure in my new city. I found a comfortable apartment with a view of Marina Bay. I explored neighborhoods, tried local foods, made new friends among colleagues. Sophia continued to message occasionally over the following months. The tone shifted gradually from anger to negotiation. We can work out the money stuff, to wistfulness. I miss what we had. I responded politely but firmly, making it clear that reconciliation wasn't on the table. 6 months after my move, I received a final email from her. She'd started a new job, moved to a smaller apartment, and begun dating again. She admitted that she'd seen our relationship primarily as financial security and me as the stable provider her parents had always wanted for her. "I didn't love you the right way," she wrote. "I'm working on that part of myself." I wished her well and closed that chapter of my life. It's been 2 years now. Singapore has become home in ways Boston never was. I'm dating someone new, a software engineer who values independence and partnership in equal measure. We split checks, share household responsibilities, and make financial decisions together. As for my finances, the money lost on wedding deposits was substantial, about $40,000 of my original house fund, but the career advancement in Singapore more than made up for it. The higher salary and lower tax rate allowed me to rebuild my savings faster than expected. Housing costs in Singapore are notoriously high, but without someone pushing for luxury accommodations beyond our means, I was able to make sensible choices. Sometimes friends ask if I regret the dramatic exit, if I could have handled things differently. Maybe. I could have had the difficult conversations earlier, set clearer boundaries, recognized the red flags sooner. But I don't regret leaving. When someone tells you who they are and what they expect, in Sophia's case, quite literally telling me she expected me to handle everything, believe them the first time. The money lost on wedding deposits and the lease? I consider it tuition paid for one of life's most important lessons. True partnership can't be bought. And someone who sees you primarily as financial security will never see you for who you really are. As for that house in the suburbs I'd been saving for, I bought a place here instead. A compact but modern apartment overlooking the city I now call home. It's smaller than what I might have purchased in Boston's suburbs, but with Singapore's excellent public transportation and amenities, it meets my needs perfectly. I was able to make the down payment using what remained of my original house fund, combined with the savings I'd accumulated during my first year here. Sometimes the best foundations are built on the ruins of plans that were never meant to be.